All right! Welcome to Rockstar! Now, just so you all know, we're going to cover this topic as fast and as completely as we can. Just the way you like it. Thanks for watching!
Chapter 1. Ben Franklin. The French court of Louis XVI was one of the most luxurious and decadent in all of Europe. Masterworks of painting hung on walls covered with gold and hung with draperies of rich fabrics. The manicured gardens outside sprawled on forever, dwarfing the huge palace of Versailles. Crowds of wealthy dukes and duchesses lined the halls and central chamber, each wearing their finest suits and gowns, bedecked with flowing powdered wigs and sparkling jewels, each trying to outdo the magnificence of the other. And today, the mob of lords and ladies were abuzz with gossip, bordering on the hysterical. The ambassador, from that new country that was rebelling against Great Britain, had just arrived, and he'd walked off the ship wearing a coonskin cap. He must be one of those wild frontiersmen that lived with the savage Indians and struggled every day to carve a living out of the immense wilderness that was America. But others said the ambassador was a world-famous scientist, writer, philosopher, chess player, and one of the most important statesmen of the new government. And even others whispered that he was a man who had visited France decades ago and had charmed the current king's father, Louis XV, as well as many ladies of the court. Soon, the ambassador would present himself to Louis XVI and to the court. Who would it be? How would this man from the American wilderness behave? Would he speak French? And would Louis XVI help him and send France into war against their arch-rival Great Britain on the side of these upstart rebellious colonies? Rumor had it that the American General Washington had just suffered a tremendous defeat at the Battle of Long Island. So why should the French risk war with Great Britain for a group of untrained militiamen who couldn't even win a battle? The ladies of the French court talked to each other behind costly fans of lace and peacock feathers, while the lords smirked knowingly at each other. Whether France helped the Americans or not, the arrival of the ambassador was going to be very entertaining and provide gossip and amusement for months to come. The crowds hushed as the chamberlain announced the ambassador's arrival. Powdered necks wearing glittering diamonds stretched and craned to see as the people parted to make space. In stepped an old man, about 70, chubby and with a pot belly, wearing spectacles, a plain brown suit, and carrying his simple hat under his arm. His bald head shone brightly under the thousands of candles in ornate chandeliers. With a broad smile, he spoke in stuttering French, "Enchanté, mesdames et messieurs." The room erupted in applause. Benjamin Franklin had arrived. While in France, Franklin thoroughly charmed the young King Louis XVI, as well as the French people, and especially the ladies. He secured the French help for the American Rebellion, which was crucial. Without their help, America wouldn't have succeeded. Then, he negotiated the peace treaty with Great Britain, making America an independent nation. But even without this crowning achievement, Benjamin Franklin would have been known as the first American, based on a long life of important scientific discoveries, volumes of philosophy and government works, a successful and wealthy career of printing, publishing, and writing, and a wholehearted dedication to public service. Born in 1706 to a working-class family in Puritan Boston, Franklin worked as an apprentice to various printers and shopkeepers, educated himself through tons of reading, and turned a failing newspaper into the most popular publication in America, all the while writing passionately about colonial self-government and liberty. After making important discoveries about the nature of electricity, he served in the Pennsylvania legislature, organized the post office, and traveled to England on behalf of colonial interests. Returning to find the colonies in armed rebellion against Great Britain, he became one of the leading and oldest delegates of the Continental Congress, helping to draft the Declaration of Independence. After signing the Declaration, a fellow congressman commented to Franklin, "We must hang together." Franklin had a definite sense of humor and wittiness to him, and he knew the punishment that awaited them if they failed. So he replied, "Yes, surely we must hang together, or else we'll all hang separately." After returning from his successful visit to France, Franklin participated in the Constitutional Congress and was the oldest signer of the Constitution of the United States of America. In his 80s, he became the highest government official in Pennsylvania and wrote passionately against slavery. When he died in 1790, over 20,000 people attended his funeral, honoring the man that many call the only American president never to be president. Perhaps you might not yet know much about Franklin as a person, but I bet you know some of Franklin's legacy, and of what he contributed to American and world society. If you've ever sent a letter in America, you've used the post office that Franklin first organized and then led as Postmaster General. If you've ever seen lightning strike a metal pole on top of a roof, you've seen a building saved due to Franklin's invention, the lightning rod. If you've ever checked out a book from a library, you've used a book lending system founded by Franklin with the Library Company in Philadelphia. If you've ever seen firefighters rush to save a burning building or home, you've seen the modern version of the first firefighting organization Franklin started over 250 years ago. If you wear glasses, and they're bifocals or trifocals, you have Franklin's invention to thank for your clear vision. If you've used a $100 bill to pay for something, you've used what we call a Benjamin, because of the portrait of Franklin on it, honoring the fact that he was all for paper currency. Ever hear or use the phrases, "A penny saved is a penny earned," "Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise," or "Fish and visitors both stink in 3 days"? All coined by Franklin in his Poor Richard's Almanac. Ever warmed yourself by a small wood-burning iron stove? That was probably a Franklin stove. Live in the United States of America? You wouldn't if it hadn't been for the great writer, statesman, and champion of liberty that was Benjamin Franklin.
Well, all right. We hope you enjoyed that. You just finished the first chapter of the topic. Now, just so you know, there are 4 more chapters to go in this app, and it will only take you about 45 more minutes to complete, and you are totally done. Now check this out. The app also comes with about 15 pages of analysis and summary that you can download and use any way you need to. Here's what you gotta do. You gotta click the link below and go directly to the Apple App Store and download the full app. It's fast and easy to do. Thanks for watching, everybody.